right, ladies and gentlemen, as the program is about to begin, we request everyone in the pre-function area to please come inside the hall and take your seats, and a humble request to please keep your mobile phones on the silent mode. Thank you.
Melt-in-mouth experience. For Belganache feels like heaven.
Fortune India 40 Under 40 celebrates the entrepreneurial prowess of India's youth with 40 of the bright.
All right, namaste and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to all of you to Fortune India's annual summit for the young achievers 40 Under 40 in this beautiful city of Bengaluru. My name is Kavya R. Chavali, and as always, I've noticed that around this time, the weather itself is absolutely fantastic. I'm guessing the mood is also fantastic, and we're all set to have a mighty, mighty good time. Well, on that note, as we all know, that the city itself is an unbeatable cradle of innovation, and it's also managed to produce a large number of our winners that are about to be felicitated today. So on that note, I'd like to extend a warm welcome. I just wanted to check how is the energy parameter over here this evening. So can we have a round of applause? Because that'll be my cue to get the program started. We love those smiles. We love that energy. So well, on that note, let's move forward as we all understand that India, being a young country, the notable achievements of our youth are something to celebrate. And the young achievers that we have today are from a diverse set of industries that include satellite manufacturing, sustainable hospitality, smart tech healthcare, swappable batteries, and edtech, amongst others. They are the ones who manage to flesh out their ideas in order to provide the goods and services that have either transformed industries or lives of the common man. Before we get started, I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank our phenomenal set of partners who have helped us put this event of a mammoth scale for all of you. First up, we'd like to thank our mobility partner, Fisker, the California-based company that is revolutionizing the automotive industry by designing and developing individual mobility in alignment with nature. We'd also like to thank our state partner, Government of Karnataka, a time partner, Frederick Constant, airline partner, Air India, technology partner, Acer, celebration partner, Sula Vineyards, our gifting partner being Febel Chocolates, and as we say ITC Febel, we all know about Febel Exquisite Chocolates, which is a luxury chocolate brand from the house of ITC. We'd also like to thank our pouring partner, Paul John Center, and our marketing partner, Creatigees. With that, it's time to move ahead. It's time to give a head start to this program, and for which I'd like to please invite on stage Mr. Rajiv Dubey, Editor-in-Chief, Fortune India. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a beautiful round of applause. Please help me welcome on stage Rajiv Dubey.
Thank you, Kavya. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Fortune India, I wish to extend a very warm welcome to all of you to the 40 Under 40 Awards, where we honor some of India's brightest young leaders who are shaping the economic future of our nation. India's bustling economy is throwing up great new opportunities for the business leaders of tomorrow to tap. Even though many of those being recognized today have made it to the big league, many other promising ones are waiting for that one lucky break. We have a diverse set of awardees later this evening. There are those that spotted a gap in the market and built a flourishing business around it. And there are Gen Next leaders from legacy businesses who have reshaped their decades-old groups with a new eye. Among the winners today is a drone company founder, a satellite company founder, a sustainable luxury founder, a single origin coffee producer, a legacy retailer, an FM radio leader, a founder who made of work at office smarter, a law firm partner, a fast-growing educational institution owner, just to name a few. The evening ahead is an interesting one, with one panel discussion, a fireside chat, followed by an award ceremony with one of India's most iconic founders and our chief guest, Mr. N.R. Narayanamurthy. This is the 8th edition of Fortune India's 40 Under 40 listing, where we identify young achievers who made a mark over the past year in business and economy. For this year's listing, the achievers needed to be under 40 years of age as of March 31, 2023. Fortune India kickstarted the process by asking our team of journalists, HR heads, and senior professionals across industries to recommend names of people who made an impact over the past year. We also invited nominations via Fortune India's social media handles. The candidates were required to provide exhaustive information, including details of how they have been disruptors, how the business scaled up in the last year, how the company's offering is different from others, and any decisions taken by them that helped the organization grow further. After going through the information provided by the nominees in detail, Fortune India's senior editorial team shortlisted 74 potential achievers, 12 legacy entrants, and 62 startup founders and promoters amongst them, whose details were presented before an independent jury that identified the winners based on quantitative information provided by the nominees and qualitative inputs that the jury deliberated upon. The final list of 40 Under 40 includes 9 business leaders from legacy firms and 31 promoters of startups. It's an exciting evening ahead, so let's begin and hope you enjoy this as much as we've enjoyed putting it together. Thank you all once again and look forward to another year of sparkling performance by young achievers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dubey, for actually setting the tone for the evening. And that being said, let's now move ahead because this is where we're about to gear up for a very interesting discussion coming your way. We know that India is a young country with the median age at about 28.2 years, and this is where the Gen Z that's been born between 1997 and 2012, they are the ones who have started dictating terms, be it in business or otherwise. So today the marketers are working in order to innovate their products, keeping Gen Z in mind. That's because they are distinct in terms of preferences as well as consumption habits. Now, most importantly, this is a cohort that is rising in numbers and has the financial strength to build brands, products, and possibly services. Organizations, in fact, are working to get more Gen Z into their workforce. So this is where we have a panel discussion on gearing up for the Gen Z economy. Let's take a look at what is happening in India Inc. and in order to cater the needs of this group of youngsters. So on that note, what we're about to do is invite our phenomenal set of leaders who will be our panelists here. Ladies and gentlemen, spearheading this discussion, we in fact have with us Ajita Shashidhar, Editor-at-Large, Fortune India. So let me please invite you on stage so that we together can invite the leaders on stage to be a part of the discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to invite our panelists. First up, may I please invite on stage Mr. C.K. Venkataraman, Managing Director, Titan Company. Mr. Hemant Malik, Divisional Chief Executive, who's with Foods Businesses of ITC. May I also please invite Mr. Manish Tiwari, Country Manager, India Consumer Business, Amazon India. And may I also please invite Shruti Shubulal, CEO and Director, Tamara Leisure Experiences. I'll tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about Gen Z, we talk about energy. Can we please have an energetic round of applause, everyone? Let's welcome our leaders. Let's get up for this phenomenal discussion coming your way right here, right now.
Thank you, Kavya. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I once again welcome you for for Fortune India's 40 Under 40 event. So as Kavya mentioned, the upcoming discussion is on how India Inc. is gearing up for to build a Gen Z economy. So the Gen Zs, as you all know, are people who are born between 1997 and 2012. And this generation is going to comprise almost 30% of the workforce globally by 2030. So, and it's a very different, and they're very different in terms of mindsets. They're quite different from the millennials also. So they are far more individualistic. They want to work on their own terms. And also, this is a generation which gives far more value to ethics and purpose over compensation. So what are you doing towards climate change and sustainability? Is your definition of diversity, does it look beyond women? What can I do? How can I meaningfully contribute to your organization? These are some of the questions that are being asked by this generation to their prospective employers. And mind you, it's not been very easy for these employers to kind of retain them and retain them in their organization. And so let's kind of find out from our stellar panelists as to what they are doing to kind of include this generation into their workforces, as well as how are they innovating for the consumers, for the Gen Z consumers. So, Venkat, I would like to start with you. So the needs and priorities of this generation is quite distinct. A Deloitte report says that almost 53% of Gen Zs who have entered the workforce have changed their jobs in the last couple of years. So are organizations finding it difficult to meet their aspirations? And what are you as an organization doing to kind of really retain this talent and also, of course, first of all, attract them?
If you go to the root cause of why they leave, it's more changing roles, perhaps, and less changing organizations. And as long as the organization is able to offer them roles which are very different every, let's say, 3, 4, maybe even 2 years, I think the organization would be in a good space. So for us, because we are a multi-category company, into many segments in some of the categories, many geographies, and a lot of new functions, new age functions which have come in, the sheer breadth of offering is very wide. And I think, therefore, every company needs to develop a portfolio of roles for the Gen Z to move every 2 or 3 years. And if they do that, I think this whole leaving will not necessarily happen. Of course, the culture is a separate point, but I'm saying the most important reason why they leave is because they want to do a new thing. A new thing can be within the company.
Manish, I would like to hear from you on the same as to what are you doing to attract this segment in Amazon?
Yeah, I think I agree with Venkat. One of the things with the Gen Z employees, and I have a kid at that age, so I'm quite close to, there is a very, very distinct need of upskilling and learning. Yeah, and therefore at Amazon, I mean, we are a little lucky that it's not a very old company, it's 28 years old worldwide, but employees have the responsibility of managing their careers. So we have an open job posting where people can apply across locales or across businesses, cloud computing, Kindle, consumer business, entertainment. At this point of time, I mean, I would have people who worked in my team over the last 8 years in almost every big city and across businesses. The second is we have a concept that any employee can write a one-pager. It's called a press release. Just think of what we would want a magazine like yours to talk about any new business, and they can submit it. So we've had instances where I have someone in my team who wrote that for the pharmacy business. He now gets to run the pharmacy business. So I think upskilling and the fact that they want to manage their career is very important. I think the second thing is this is a generation which has not seen a world without the internet. So they have so much of information, and they look forward to organizations which are flat, egalitarian, where everyone is equal. Your tenure or your designation does not decide how much you can contribute. So at Amazon, all of us, all 13 lakh plus employees, we have similar offices, similar perks, travel, stay, exactly the same way. So we've never ever differentiated employees in terms of their seniority on how you are treated within the company. It's very difficult, by the way, because I still remember my first day at Amazon, the conference room was full, and I came from a company, an awesome company, but if you were senior, people would get up and offer you the seat. No one does that in new gen companies. And I had to sit on the floor along with a lot of kids. And at my age, cross-legged wasn't very comfortable. So I think that's the second important thing. You have to skilling and then creating an environment in the company where every employee is equal. Yeah. The third one is they want to work for companies which they feel proud about and being able to associate with. It goes far beyond compensation. So when my own employees actually 6 years back said, why do we use so much plastic in the packaging? I hadn't heard it in my previous 15, 18 years of working. And they expect you to solve for it. If you don't, they believe that their values and the company values are not matching. So I think combination of skilling, the culture in a company, and does the company match the values of its Gen Z employees? When the three come together, I think it works well.
Coming to you, Shruti, you just told me before we came up on the stage that you had an interesting conversation with a potential Gen Z employee. So it'll be interesting to hear from you as to what kind of conversations you're having in general, and of course, if you can tell us, about that conversation also.
Sure. So just a couple of hours ago, I happened to interview a young person for a position in our organization. And it was a really, it was an interesting conversation. I think, of course, the interview went on as normal, talking about experience, yada, yada. But the thing that really clicked, and the thing that I think, because I have to, I always think that it is me, of course, interviewing this person for a position and a role within a larger organization. It's also them choosing us, right? Good candidates have usually a selection of organizations to which that they could potentially go to. So I also look at it as sort of, I need to court them as well, right? So any interview, I'm sort of putting myself out there also to connect. And I think the thing that really connected with this person, and I've seen this time and time again, is really inspiration, right? If you're able to inspire a person, and particularly with purpose, you've gone deeper than just talking about a role, a job, or even a career. You've gotten to value system, and you've kind of, what you were just touching about, right? You're kind of then really sinking deep into a person's being and showing them, hey, listen, this is maybe where you belong, right? And as an employer, it also gives me a sense of where their value system lies. And for me, that's extremely important as given that our organization holds values so strongly. So it's it was a very interesting moment, right? To see that, okay, if you are able to connect on that idea, right? On being purposeful, then there is this way that, you're able to kind of find something in common. I also think that, it was this particular instance, I felt that this person was really looking for inspiration, in a sense, in the leader that they were talking to. And what I mean by that is I do think that this generation has been through a lot, right? I mean, you touched upon it. They've been through recession. They saw COVID. They've gone through so many ups and downs in the last couple of years that it really is important for them to now look at leaders as people of inspiration and people who will openly communicate and be transparent with them and be real with them, quite honestly. I think that is something that they're looking for, genuinely, right? It's not the same as a parental figure. It's not the same as a dictatorial figure. It's somebody who will really, it inspires them and, seems as a person that will really help them grow and come into their own as they are going into sort of those more, middle years of their career.
Hemant, what kind of conversations are you having?
So, when you define Gen Z in the right method, that means they're about 25, 26 years. So if you really look at it, most people join the organization at 23. So it's just been about 3-4 years of what we call Gen Zs who've come into being. And I think, I do agree with the comments being made in terms of how to manage. I think the biggest point is for us to learn what exactly is this generation expecting. And that learning, a lot of, I think for me, the most important is how you can learn for yourself. Because, at your position, if you learn something and you want to make a change, then, the responsibility is with you. I have a conversation with about 8-10 people on a regular basis, just like a small coffee, and you just chat and get to know each other. What is very interesting when you have this conversation is that a lot of people come and talk about not what the job that they're doing, but who they are, what do they like, what their passions are. Second was in terms of this discussion around mental health, right? And it was an eye-opener that people are so comfortable to talk about it. And the question that was raised was, what is the company, what is the organization doing about mental health? You do so many things for physical health and medical facilities and all that is there, but how much is being invested around mental health? And I think that was a conversation that we said, no, okay, fine, we need to do better, right? So that is one example that, you learned in terms of how the generation is evolving. The other area, of course, comes in terms of do I have a chance to, work on my passions, right? How do you make the work more engaging? And therefore, in terms of how do you, in a large organization, in our previous conversation, you were calling us legacy organization. But I must tell you, I have 32% of my population is below 30 years of age, right? So it's no longer as legacy as it would be. But I think in terms of policy changes, these conversations make a lot of difference. And therefore, you're able to drive change. We talked about diversity. You talk about the language. And I think one big area that we have to learn is the language that you speak. You never realize that this is maybe offensive, right? And maybe it was acceptable 2 generations, 15 years back. But I think we as senior people need to evolve on that and actually continually learn. So I think that would be my comments.
Venkat, you have spent 34 years with Titan. So when you speak to your Gen Z colleagues, do they often ask you how you could stay in an organization for such a long time? And if they ask you, what really is your response to them?
In fact, I just had lunch with some 10 of them today, coincidentally. And one of them asked me. And that person wasn't even, born when I joined the company. So I said, family. Titan is like family. And this is a notion that is very strong in Titan. It sometimes feels a little maybe outdated notion in 2023, but you'd be surprised how many Gen Zs after 6 months in the company say, I feel like I'm part of a family. And I think, therefore, the deeper aspects of human connections are everlasting and timeless, whatever else happens. And if an organization is able to evolve with the times, but still keep those connections, I think that's... and I was in advertising before I joined Titan. And Titan was a young people's company way back in 1990. I was a little nervous when I came in because advertising is a very cool industry. And I was coming into a Tata Group company, and I was wondering if it would be a little, bureaucratic and stuff like that. But it was a very, very chilled out, even better than the advertising agency I left. And I'm talking about 1990. And those seeds were sown way back. And we have, because so many of us have stayed back, we managed to retain that young people thing from that time. So our vocabulary has been, young people's all the time. So we didn't have to really reinvent our language, idiom, nothing. We've just evolved as opposed to having to pivot.
So Shruti, coming to you, again, this is a generation which is laying a lot of emphasis on purpose and ethics. And there's a Deloitte report which says that purpose and ethics to many of them is actually more valuable. They're okay with if the compensation is kind of a little lower, provided their their purpose matches with the organization's objectives. So how different is your employer branding when you go to campuses to recruit? What do you say? How do you?
So we actually just launched a program that's pretty revolutionary within the hospitality industry, which is a fairly traditional industry if you think about it. The program is called Responsible Hoteliers of Tomorrow. So essentially what it is that we take college students in, we have them doing an internship with us. A lot of the internship is, of course, the typical skilling, right? Learning whatever you need to know when you're working in a hotel. But a big chunk of what we're teaching them is really about sustainable practices. And that has to do with, how do you involve the community in the work that you're doing in the hotel? How do you look at energy efficiency? How do you look at waste management? How do you look at, anything really to do with sustainability? And that's pretty revolutionary. And I think, when we launched this program, it was kind of a dream program for me. When we launched it, I have to say, I was a little skeptical. I was a little concerned. I didn't know how many applications we were going to get. I wasn't quite sure. And I thought, okay, we're going to get, maybe a dozen people and we'll, that's all we're going to get. We ended up getting quite a few applications. It was interesting, right? I think that young people really, they were very interested. And they were interested in this perspective. They wanted to understand, what is the industry going to look like in the future? How is my industry, the one where I'm choosing to end up in, applying these values that I believe in regards to being responsible and being sustainable? And so I think the communication that we put out there has to really revolve, and it does. It often revolves around this idea, why do we exist, rather than this is what we do. Right, so the purpose is always at the forefront. We really, we talk about being a purpose-driven organization. That's also how we're trying to communicate in terms of letting people know, hey, listen, this is why we are here, and this is, if you're part of this, if you feel that sense of belonging, and you feel that sense of purpose, you feel a common sense of purpose with us, then here's a place where we think you will belong, and you would have a fulfilling journey, right? And this is a place where you can really not just do a job, but you can really apply yourself and live your values while building your career.
Hemant, how different is your employer branding today from what it was, say, even two or 3 years ago?
I think I would take up from what Shruti was mentioning about the whole aspects of sustainability. I think ITC's story on sustainability goes back 2 decades. We've been water positive for 21 years, carbon positive for 18 years, and zero solid waste for 16 years. But we've been doing it even before this Gen Z was probably born, because that's what the organization believed in. But now we find the resonance is so much higher. But I think what we need to work on more is in terms of how do you make it, more approachable. It's not that something somewhere else does. It is how can I be part of it? And that's a question that come up. If the organization is doing, will I get a chance to participate in that? And therefore, that's what is one aspect. So therefore, earlier your presentation would have been in terms of what your gross revenues would be. Now the presentation is what is your sustainability part of it, right? That's where your stories are going. The second big area is, of course, from a diversity perspective, in terms of what the organization is doing, how are you driving, how are you looking at from not only the policy perspective, and I mentioned about language. So these are the 2 aspects that have come up right up front. The third, which will always remain important, is, am I going to get, is it going to be very bureaucratic, or will I get a chance to do what I want to do, right? And I think, you started with Deloitte report of 53% having 2 jobs. I think we belong to the 47%, right? We have people because we take straight from the campus. And the onus is in terms of course, there will be few who will leave. There are few who have left and who have become entrepreneurs here and who are part of this 40 under 40, and we are really proud of that, right? And that's the environment that we are looking at in terms of giving people, in terms of where you can come, you can do many things. If you want to continue, you continue, or you carry the legacy of ITC wherever you are.
Thank you. Coming to you, Manish. Again, this is a generation which has entered the workforce. Most of them have entered during COVID. A lot of uncertainty. They have seen job losses happening. Their parents have lost their jobs. So, I mean, there's again, quoting the Deloitte report, they prefer stability. It's unlike the millennials who used to idealize school dropouts. This generation, I'm told, they prefer some kind of stability. So what are you doing? How are you capitalizing on this to kind of, what kind of an environment have you created for them so that they actually, kind of continue with you for the long term?
Yeah, I don't know about stability. I was smiling because I've been trying to tell my kid to take a job, and he keeps on saying, every second day, he says, I'll do my doctoral. Then he says, I'm going to do my master's. So I'm not sure, but I think what is important is this generation, because of the kind of information they have a very clear point of view, and they want to manage their career. Yeah, so that generation is gone where HR would tell you, what is the next step. They want to say, this is what I want to learn, and this is how I want to run my career. So we have a concept, and like I said, we are probably blessed that we have businesses which are so diverse, and most of them are at cutting edge of what's happening, whether it's, say, Prime Video on OTT, or we're just launching the Kuiper low orbit satellite system in India, or AWS. And what we offer our employees is what we call the jungle gym. Saying careers are no longer about promotions in the traditional sense. It's about work on pharmacy for a year, go off to cloud computing, learn it for a year, go and make the next Mirzapur or a family man if you have the creative juices. So our employer proposition is we would be at the leading edge of technology, and we will give you so many diverse experiences which you would want. So today, I mean, kids are writing in saying, tell us a little more about large language models. Yeah, and we can provide that. So I think that's where our focus is, provide a conducive environment, but priority number one is give them enough chances to learn and skill themselves. That is probably the driving force on where they would want to continue a career.
Venkat, the next question actually comes from my Gen Z colleague, Urvashi. So she said that, she says that on one hand, while she wants stability, on the other hand, there's also entrepreneurial fire in her belly. So, so as an organization, are you taking any initiatives to, kind of encourage your Gen Z colleagues to kind of be more enterprising, or are you encouraging entrepreneurship?
We've always believed in cross-functional teams working to solve, wicked challenges. That's been a institutionalized process for a long time, decades. And therefore, everyone gets a chance to do very interesting things. And we have multiple programs which encourage innovation as well. And just 2 weeks back, we have a program called Interweave, which are teams which participate in creating very innovative solutions for vexing problems kind of thing. And the team which coincidentally won it was from the internal audit team, and all 4 of them young women, all Gen Z, and using AI and analytics to actually predict problems that may occur in various processes, and helping the businesses to identify before actually it happens. So therefore, this cross-functional teams, through which sometimes for example, we had a program called Igniter. And that Igniter program was an entrepreneurship program. And our sari business, which we launched a few years back, was born out of teams which participated in that. So therefore, entrepreneurship is a very active, alive thing in our company.
Thank you. Shruti, you're a new age company. So what are you doing to encourage your colleagues to actually become entrepreneurial? Do you do anything differently?
Yeah, so I think what we do is we create a lot of sounding boards. I mean, in the sense, we try to really keep communication very open from the top to the bottom. I think it's something that, we're not at the size of these organizations, obviously. We've just crossed about 1,000 employees recently, and our employees are fairly dispersed across the country. And many of my employees, the majority of them are very young people. So we have utilized technology, of course. We've utilized a lot of other methods as well to figure out how can we ensure that people feel heard and that we're able to listen at all levels. Because I do think that, of course, increases the ability for collaboration and entrepreneurship in general. But it also, I think, going back, it gives you a sense of belonging, right? And if you're heard and one of your ideas is actually, we're able to implement it at a larger level, it really does give an opportunity for us to be able to recognize that person for the contributions that they've given to the organization, which I also think is something which is far more important today than it ever has been in the past. So, these channels of communication, I think, are the primary way in which we've encouraged, growth and opportunity building within the organization. Apart from that, I would just say that it's, we're highly transparent. I mean, as an organization, again, we try to be extremely communicative about what is happening across. Also because we're scaling quite quickly, it is important that the culture of the organization stays intact within the community of people that we have today. And so as we're scaling, we try to really keep we're trying to keep in touch as much as possible with everyone, making sure that they know what's happening, what's going on, what to look forward to, so that we can all sort of grow together and we can stay together as we welcome new people into our folds.
So the next question I would like to hear from all of you, so this is coming to consumers. Maybe we can start with you itself. How do you innovate? For the Gen Z consumers, is there anything that you're doing differently? What really is the ask of the travelers today? How different is the ask?
Yeah, so the ask has been, I think, evolving, right? I mean, every year it seems to evolve, and now there's more and more studies saying that travelers want to choose more sustainable options, for instance, when they're traveling, and they want to know which are those sustainable options. So I think that's one thing that we've seen very recently in the last couple of years with COVID and things like that. But in general, I would say the travelers, what we're seeing, are more demanding of experiences at every level, right? Not just in the luxury space, but as also in the business segment and the mid segment. People are more interested in understanding a place in terms of what are the experiences which can be offered there, what is it that I can learn new in this place, how does this travel enrich me as a person? I think that has become something which is very, very important. And I think particularly for Gen Z, they don't necessarily have the biggest wallets, so they may be staying in not the most luxurious places, but they're looking for something that is going to really, for something that they're going to connect with. And so the experiences that we are creating within the organization are really to go back to that, to the essence of not necessarily providing the most fancy, nothing like that, really about how can we show you a place in a respectful way? How can we introduce you to the culture of a destination? How can we introduce you to the people of a destination in a respectful way? And allow you to embrace that, take that back with you as a memory that is something that you will keep with you.
Manish, how different is your innovation pipeline today from what it was a couple of years ago?
I think it's, I was just telling this to Hemant, we have a Diwali sale starting tonight. If you go on the social media and sort of crawl around, there's a generation, they make cheat sheets. Yeah. So they can tell you which marketplace, there are lots of e-commerce companies. There is so much of information, and then they share it openly. Yeah. So if you just take that behavior and sharp at 12 o'clock, I mean, there will be literally millions of customers who will log in. Yeah. And that is the kind of information transparency which is there. If I just get to what we need to do, I'm saying over the last few years, starting from product search, this generation is searching for products everywhere. It's no longer restricted to, going to the search bar and typing. And irrespective of whichever tier you refer to in terms of town class, people are using voice. The Gen Z sitting here, if someone likes your dress, they take the image and they just upload it. So the way people are searching for products has completely changed. Yeah? And it's no longer restricted to the old traditional, and I'm talking about e-commerce, not even offline. So it's very important. I mean, today you can use voice search, visual search. Second, the role of peer-to-peer influence has become very, very large. During the next X amount of days, 30 days when the sale is on, there will be thousands of influencers who will be going live on Amazon, and then they talk about products. And this is not advertising, because they keep the bar very high, and which is why they have that loyalty. So they want to hear what these people talk about. Then they exchange notes between themselves among their peer group and then decide what to do. So if your marketplace has reviews and ratings which do not connect with them, you lose them. Yeah? The third part, which is equally important for all of us as brand builders and retailers, is the post-purchase feedback. Again, the entire peer-to-peer thing has become far more important than what was traditionally go to the idiot box, do the advertising. And I'm sure that I could see a lot of D2C brands in the 40 under 40. You speak to some of them and they understand the importance of changing their business model to focus heavily on peer-to-peer and product feedback among that generation. So those are things which have changed quite sharply over the last 3-4 years.
Hemant, when I had put together the ITC story a while ago, I heard that, I was told that you have a robust listening tool. So, what kind of insights do you get from there, and how do you innovate? How has that been translated into your innovation process?
So you are talking to this digital native generation, and therefore all the time they are, and therefore to that extent, that's what we started our social listening that we started a few years back. But I think I agree with what Manish was saying about search, but I think now the search has also moved to Insta. And therefore now how do you track in terms of what are they looking at Insta, and therefore what are the new trends happening? You are constantly chasing in terms of trying to understand where this consumer is going. So we are not a tech company, but we have become half a tech company, right? Because that's where the consumer is, and therefore you need to be. So I think marketing to a large extent is therefore changing in terms of advertising is something, they may not be sure of. So you need to use influencers, whether it's micro, nano. There are some, as per ShareChat, which is a very large Indian Facebook, so to say. There are 56 million influencers. So everybody wants to become an influencer. So how are your brands going to come and be part of that? In terms of product development, product innovation, yes, you can get the insight, but I think the good thing is you can actually test out quickly thanks to so many commerce platforms that are coming. It allows you to try and test and see what is working, what is not working. But I think in terms of trying to reach the consumer and to speak this language is a constant journey, and what you knew 2 years back is no longer relevant.
So you've come up with so many new categories now, millets, then frozen foods, all your beverages. So, what kind of...
Yeah, so I think we have to do this because we have to, make the Gen Z keep excited. So we have to launch new categories so that they can feel empowered and do something. Anyway, that was just in jest. But yeah, I think these categories are coming in based upon the conversation that is taking place. And I think the International Year of Millets, which actually Government of India has been promoting in a very big way. We have participated because in ITC, both from our agri perspective, we are working with farmers from making sure that there'll be enough millets available. We are creating demand. We are also doing work in our hotels. And of course, we've launched millets in every part of our portfolio, whether it is noodles, whether it is in terms of biscuits, whether it is in terms of millet flour itself. We're finding interesting traction out of that because it is a sustainable solution. It is a sustainable solution from India. And I think, it's something that I would recommend to everybody to go because it's, low GI and good for for health and vitamins in many ways. Right?
Venkat, very recently you've repositioned Mia as a brand which kind of uses recycled gold, and that is something you always used. You have been doing it, but you're specifically talking about it now. So how has innovation how different are your innovations now? And if you can also talk about the Mia example first, and then talk about the innovations that are coming up. You've gotten into so many new categories.
Actually, I just want to, dwell a little on this whole point of purpose. Yeah. I would give it a, different, word or a phrase. It's about corporate responsibility. Okay, whether the company has a purpose or not, is it a responsible company? Is it responsible to all the stakeholders who are involved in that creation of value? Is it responsible towards the environment, the world? Is it responsible towards the government? That is the holistic aspect of ESG. And we are very fortunate that we belong to the Tata Group, and the Tata Group had thought about these things more than 100 years back. And we have been at it for a very long time now, from the corporate responsibility point of view, the whole multiple stakeholder focus. So employees, off-role employees, distribution partners, vendor partners, all of them should get their equitable share of the prosperity that the organization is creating. So whether it is a 70-year-old customer or a Gen Z customer today, both of them are connecting with this. So in a way, it's been a good thing that whatever we've been naturally doing because we believed in it, not because it was the thing to do, it automatically plays to our strength today. And, our office, after a long, we have one of the most beautiful campuses in the world, even if I may say so, in Electronic City. After a lot of thinking, we decided to call the campus Integrity. That's the name of our campus. And it goes to the root of the single biggest thing we believe in, which is ethics. And therefore, the connections that we are making with Gen Z are in a way effortlessly happening because the company's DNA is sitting in multiple stakeholder focus right through, and as the Tata Group is. And therefore, for example, in 2005, we started a total artisan transformation program for the jewelry industry, because the jewelry industry making is like quite medieval. That's 2005, when the Gen Zs were sort of just about starting to walk, perhaps. And now, after 17, 18 years, when people hear about what we are doing for the artisans in the industry, and it's been transformational, there is no other word I would use for it, a 70-year-old as well as a 20-year-old is like totally impressed with it and say, this is a company which is not only looking after its shareholders. So I think that broad sweep of stakeholder focus is, I think, key to certainly all the Gen Zs connect with that we're doing the same thing with the weavers in our sari business. We have a program called the Weaver Shala, where we want to transform the situation of the weaver and bring dignity, income, steady income, good infrastructure and working conditions to the weaver. So when they come and say, oh, this is the company which is looking at the weaver, not just at its own pockets, they connect.
Manish, you're innovating for the Gen Zs at large, but how different is a metro consumer, a Gen Z metro consumer, from a consumer in Tier 2 India, Tier 2, Tier 3 India? Is there any distinct difference?
The simple answer is no. A decade, 15 years back, and I used to sell soup and soap in my previous job, there was a difference because in terms of the kind of information consumers had, it wasn't secular. Second, the choices you had was not, I was born up in a town called Jamshedpur. Even today you might struggle to find a double door 900-liter refrigerator. But with the coming in of online commerce, you can order anything from anywhere. The same, let me talk about a fashion trend. Right now, a lot of kids get inspired by Korean stars. and they wear oversized t-shirts, baggy pants, and they have these jackets. We see people searching for them from small places in Jharkhand, just the way someone in South Bombay is searching for it. So I think what the internet has done is aspirations are there now. Absolutely the same kind of aspirations are there. And there are now ways to achieve that aspiration. So sometimes this tiering and economic prosperity, we talk about it together. I think that's not the case. So a small town consumer in any place, he or she wants the same things which anyone in a metro wants.
Hemant, premiumization is supposed to be the way forward for the growth of most consumer good companies. So again, if you put that in a consumer context, again, do you see a difference between your tier 2, tier 3 consumer vis-a-vis the metro consumer?
Yeah, so I will respond and I'll say I don't agree with Manish completely on they being the same. Of course, there's no debate that access of technology and has made a lot of difference. So the difference has changed. But I think in terms of attitude, there is still there is a difference. I think both have fire. One is talking about fire in the belly. One is talking about financial independence and retire early. So I think the more evolved Gen Zs that we have been so far talking about. But when I talk about, the whole aspect about gender or diversity, it's much more in metros. In the other places, they're more acceptable about it, but right now they haven't started talking about it. In terms of being completely independent, true that what you see in metro, they are all actually children of Gen X, which is what some of us are here. Because we've been liberal, they are much more liberal in their mindset. Education is... But when I look at the tier 2, tier 3, there is still, in terms of family relationship, are important. I find that today you ask somebody to move, right? Location is critical, right? Sorry, I'll leave the job, I'll go somewhere else, but I'm not going to leave the town. I don't find that in tier 2, tier 3. They are willing to move up, and so therefore the aspirations are different.
Venkat, what would be your thoughts on this?
It's it's a little different across categories. For example, in our jewelry business, we go really deep. Even a brand like Carrot Lane or a Mia, which are for the Gen Z and millennials, succeeds in a Bilaspur, for example. But jewelry is also a store of value category in India. And therefore, they all know that even though they spend $25,000, that money is there for the taking. Whereas in some of the other categories, which are more about lifestyle, it's not that deep. But I would still agree, a little more with Manish on this, that while the number of people, and that's to do with the economic situation in a Bilaspur, while the number of people is less, obviously, but it's becoming more and more equal in a sense.
So coming to the last leg of a conversation, Shruti, I would like to hear from you. Most leaders talk about reverse mentorship. So what are the 2 things that you have learned from your Gen Z colleagues?
That's a good question. I would say, I think from my colleagues, I think one is a spirit of innovation. I think really holding on to that spirit of innovation is something that they have, I think, been very true about. I don't know if I'm able to communicate this properly, but I do feel like the younger that you are, the more willing you are to take risk and make mistakes, and through that you can innovate quite a lot. And as you grow, and I've seen this in my own career, I started when I was 22, 23 years old. You become a lot more conservative and less open-minded in certain ways, right? You start to think about things in a more sort of narrow sort of field of vision. And I think the more often I'm able to talk to my younger colleagues and keep these channels of communication open, the more I'm inspired to stay open to innovation and take those risks along with them, So I would say that's the primary thing that I have learned. I think apart from that, it's the energy that the Gen Z brings into any organization, I think, is amazing, right? I think that these are young people who have a real strong sense of self in a way. I think about the sort of self-awareness, the positivity that they have, the confidence that they have in themselves. It's very different from my generation. I think they're far more, self-confident, and I think that that's something that is admirable. So I really look up to them in that sense, and I do believe that if they are able to sort of hold on to that confidence, not in a haughty way, right, and with hopefully a sense of humbleness as well. But if they're able to do that and they inspire me to stay a little bit more confident in my own sort of skills and things, I think that it provides quite a lot of value.
Manish, what are the two things that you've learned from your Gen Z?
For me, one part is completely technical. I use them to reverse mentor me on technology because I can't do my job otherwise. I'm a computer engineer, never coded for the first 2 decades. So that's a must-have. And the second is how they think. Back to office, I used to think differently, and then someone said, why do you want people to go through Bangalore traffic? Let them work from home. So it really helps me think differently from what I was trained to. So 2 distinct parts.
What are your 2 cents that you would like to give to your Gen Z colleagues?
Oh, God. First, I was thinking, in fact, while you were asking the question, what have I picked up? Very quickly on that, I think the whole aspect of there's more to life than work. I think they take it seriously. Work is just one part of them. And I think that is something that, I have to learn part of it. And the second is more focus on equity and diversity. I think, what I thought was I was doing a thing, I think there's still some more to work. In terms of what 2 cents I would like to give, I think sometimes I feel it's a privileged generation, right? They want recognition every morning. And saying, if you don't get a reward, it's like saying, I was supposed to do 10 things, but I've done 5. At least reward me for those 5. But but you were paid to do 10 things. So I think a little bit of that, there is a little pampering that is going on. But I guess, we have to pamper. It's a future. But that is one.
Venkat, finally coming to you. What are your 2 cents for the Gen Z?
Yeah, one is learn to love what you do, as opposed to just hanker after what you think you love. The second is learn to put money in its place.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If I could please request all our speakers to remain on stage. And if I could please invite Mr. Arun Singh, Business Head, Fortune India, to please come on stage and present a token of gratitude to our amazing leaders for those dynamic insights that we managed to gather. I think we got to also understand the pulse or the thinking of the Gen Z. And can we also have a dynamic round of applause? I think we enjoyed these insights coming in from all of our leaders. Our gifting partner, ITC Febel. What an opportune moment. We have the leader himself from ITC here. But we'd love to celebrate such sweet moments, don't we? And I'd like to request you all to please come together for a group photograph as well. Thank you very much one more time. And thank you for joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, on that insightful note, it's time to march ahead to our next segment of the program. Now, before we do that, one thing is for sure is that every season in Bengaluru is a season that we look forward to. And an evening like this celebrates the future of our country, which is why it was only befitting that we celebrate right here at Four Seasons Hotel, Bengaluru, our hospitality partner. On that note, I hope all of you are also eagerly looking forward to our next segment of the program. Before we deep dive into our next segment, let me take the the opportunity one more time to thank our partners here for their phenomenal support, our mobility partner, Fisker. And ladies and gentlemen, I must tell you, in fact, it was a matter of coincidence because yesterday I was having a call with my uncle back in Chicago and he tells me that he's bought a Fisker. And I'm wondering, all right, until I land over here and what I see over here, I see the team of Fisker. I really can't wait to see the transformation take place in India as well. So congratulations on that note and thank you for, sort of partnering with us. It allows us to come together and bring forth such powerful conversations. We'd also like to thank our state partner, Government of Karnataka. We'd also like to thank our time partner, Frederick Constant. Let me also tell you, towards the end of the program, we also have a lucky draw taking place. I'm going to share more details about it in a short while. We'd like to thank our airline partner, Air India, our technology partner, Acer. We'd also like to thank our celebration partner, Sula Vineyards, our gifting partner, ITC Fabel, pouring partner, Paul Jones Center, our marketing partner, Creator G's, and of course, one more time, our hospitality partner, Four Seasons Hotel, Bengaluru. So with that, it's now time to gear up. I'm sure all of you know what's about to happen in the next segment, who's about to arrive and join us and also share their insights with us. This is where we're all about to gear up and actually find out more about building India's decacons. So I hope all of you are eagerly looking forward to it. I'm sure this is a conversation that will also set the tone for what we're looking forward to with regard to as India's growth story. So the next focus for discussion would be about building India's decacons. All right, I've been told that our speakers are about to join us in a short while. And while we await their presence, let me also take a moment to inform you that towards the end of the program, we'll also be having a very interesting lucky draw taking place. And this is where our time partner, Frederick Constant, will be presenting the High Life collection as the lucky draw award. So I hope all of you are eagerly looking forward to it. On that note, let me tell you that this hall is already brimming with inspiration. I hope you're eagerly looking forward to our next discussion. We're talking about building India's decacons, and we have with us our amazing leaders right here. Ladies and gentlemen, first up, can we have a round of applause to welcome our leaders here? On one hand, we have the icon for many of today's entrepreneurs, the man who's redefined what we call startups today. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a thunderous round of applause for Shri N.R. Narayan Murthy ji? We also have the man who leads one of India's few profitable companies that never depended on external funding. And I've also been told that he's just turned only 44 yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, Nitin Kamath, founder and CEO, Zerodha. And joining us, we have with us a renowned economist and academician, the Vice Chairman, State Institution for Transformation of Karnataka, Shri Rajiv Gowda. So please, let's have a huge, huge round of applause. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If I could request you to take your seats. And with that, I'm going to request Nitin to please take the stage to moderate the discussion on building India's decacons. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks for the intro. And yeah, I haven't really done this ever, so excuse me. No, so firstly, I'd want to start with a story. My dad used to work in Canara Bank in Jayanagar, and when Infosys was doing IPO, apparently Sir walked into the branch, and my dad decided not to do the, invest in the IPO, and, he decided to invest in something else, and he's regretted through his life, and so I have, this is something I've been wanting to ask you for some time. One of the things I think at Zerodha we follow is this whole when in doubt disclose, which, you've always said it. Right? I mean, even though we are not a listed company, we take every opportunity to disclose, set the expectations right. And you've done this phenomenally well. And, when you look at the public market ecosystem today, what do you think is going wrong? Because, there haven't been companies that are generating wealth. I think Infosys did a phenomenal job in generating so much wealth for everyone, right? And almost I think 90% of all the IPOs are below the IPO price today. What do you think is going wrong today?
In the
public market ecosystem,
No, I think it's Our public markets are doing pretty well. The index, BSE index is going up. The NSE index is going up. They're all, by and large, most of the companies are doing reasonably well. It's, of course, Rajiv probably would be a better man to answer this because he has a much better grasp of macroeconomics. I am a microeconomic guy. My view is that it's not a bad time because by and large, of probably about 2,800, 3,000 companies that are there, as usual, the BSE 30 is doing well, NSE 50 is doing well. That's it. So as far as public markets are concerned, the valuation are somewhat higher. The reason is very clear because the focus of the foreign institutional investors has been much higher on the Indian market in the last 3-4 years because they were all in some way trying to de-emphasize China and Hong Kong and a few other markets. And therefore, some of that has come to India. And you know, Nitin, much better than I do, that we Indians have a tremendous affectation with foreigners. That is, for every dollar that comes from abroad, we think that the Indian market probably adds $10 or something like that. So because the foreign institutional investors have been participating in FPI, I think it's doing pretty well. So I don't know if I can complain about the Indian public markets, except that, I am comfortable with a PE of between 7 and 15. Generally, that is the way I am used to. So some companies have much higher. And even Infosys has much higher now. So, everybody else, all our competitors have higher PEs. Now, we need to see how that will pan out.
So what about the startups that are listing? If you were to think of the journey back when Infosys first listed, right? What was your mental framework when you were listing? And if you were to compare that framework to startups that are listing today over the last 5-6 years, do you see a difference in how people are approaching public markets and getting retail investors on the cap table?
Well, I think the entrepreneurs of today are clearly much smarter than we were. There is no doubt about it. Absolutely. For several reasons. See, the biggest competition is in the market for revenue and the market for talent. During our time, when I founded Infosys in 1981, along with my 6 younger colleagues, the talent was easily available. For example, at PCS, where I was head of software, we had about 20 BTechs from IIT Bombay, including London. So talent was not a big problem then. But today, talent is extremely difficult to get because there are so many opportunities. That's one. So therefore, today's entrepreneurs, by necessity, have to be much smarter than we were. The second thing is, we all took the easy route because we focused on export markets. Even today, if you look at the top 5 companies in my industry, 90 to 95% of the revenue comes from abroad. But the beauty of the current entrepreneurs today is that they are all fighting in the Indian domestic market. That's not easy because the country has still not come to a certain maturity level in appreciating the power of technology in gaining competitive advantage in the marketplace. So I would say that today's entrepreneurs are much smarter. They have bigger vision. They are more daring. They are definitely much smarter. And, I do believe that they will create a country that we can all be proud of, particularly Rajiv, because he has been charged with the responsibility of transforming Karnataka. And Bangalore happens to be a very important center of entrepreneurship in the country. And this should be music to his ears.
Yeah, so we were in the backstage, and all the good words Sir had for Rajiv was just phenomenal. So, so Rajiv, if you could introduce, what you're trying to do at SITK, and maybe the audience hasn't heard about it yet.
Yeah, the SITK, the State Institute for the Transformation of Karnataka, is the local equivalent of the Niti Aayog. And we may well go back to the earlier title of Karnataka Policy and Planning Commission, just because everyone seems to think that fits better in the governmental context. But in any case, so what's this organization all about? Well, it's an organization that's a platform for unleashing the potential of the state in ways that haven't happened before. So to give you just a handful of examples, if you think about Karnataka's economic growth, a lot of the action, maybe 60, 70% of the state's GDP comes out of where we are, this Bengaluru region. And so we need to find a way to go beyond Bengaluru and move the action to every other part, right? And it's not like there isn't a history. If you think about possibly, your historic origins, the Dakshina Kannada region was where 100 years ago multiple banks emerged. So possibly the talent exists to create fintech emerging hubs out there as well. Something needs to go and trigger some of that action, right? So one of the aims is to go beyond Bengaluru. The larger agenda, if I can summarize that, is our Chief Minister, Shri Siddaramaiah, is talking about a Karnataka model of development, right? If you think about Gujarat, you could say it's growth without equity. Kerala is equity without growth. And so we want to be sustainable growth. We want to be equity and inclusion. We want to be social harmony. So we want to do many things at the same time. And so under that broad framework, we want to work with, so my job is to make every ministerial colleague of mine successful, okay? And by extension, the government itself, impactful over time. So that's one part, right? The other, when I talked about unleashing the potential, if you just think about, you're all in the knowledge sector. Mr. Murthy is, after all, working with the knowledge economy, right? Taking talent and conquering global markets with that, turning brains into dollars. Now, there's just so much talent in here. Karnataka is also a place which attracts the best of brains. There's a brain drain in India to Bengaluru. That's what, so we have an abundance of talent that's coming in here and fueling the startup boom and everything else. But at the same time, we've always had numerous institutions, right? There's the Indian Institute of Science here. I used to teach at the Indian Institute of Management. There are numerous institutions that don't actually talk to one another, don't work and synergize with one another. And these are all mostly government institutions. And so we have all our youngsters who are studying science. Fewer and fewer are studying science, by the way. And they don't have exposure to the same professor who's doing nanotechnology work and presenting his work, her work in some global conference, right? So how do we open up all these things? How do we create that mindset change that can really tap the talent that exists, right? Inspire others. So there's so many of these kinds of ideas that we are wrestling with right now. It's still early days. And of course, everyone would really focus on how do you improve infrastructure, get people to travel, faster and with less stress. That way they could be even more productive. I mean, the amount of GDP we lose with people, stuck at Silk Road Junction or something like that is enormous.
Right. No, since sir referred, you were teaching public policy at IMB for a while. I mean, 2 decades is what you said. So, I mean, I want to use this opportunity to ask your macro view on the country, as in, like, where do you think India is, and how are you thinking over the next 5-10 years for India?
Okay, so India is in a very, very, very good place, right? So if you were, the foreign investors are coming in here not because they like the concept of India. They're coming in here because they see tremendous potential here, economic potential, etc. But that economic potential will be realized only if we also pay attention, not just to what the possibilities are, but to to what's also possibly going wrong, right? There's tremendous inequality. Right? If you look at, there are, inflation is pinching. The recovery after COVID has been what they call K-shaped, right? And there are large numbers of people who've been hurt and who are still finding it difficult to cope. So this is partly the job of government, to pay attention to those who are falling behind, right? The unicorns can focus on those who can afford to spend and, things like that. But we have to make sure. That's why you have a fastest growing economy in the world, but we're also providing free food to 83 crore people at the same time, right? This is the dichotomy that exists. Actually, even in the stock market, a lot of the action is with a small group of companies, and there are large numbers that are not doing as well, right? I mean, I'm not saying they're not doing well, but the Nifty 50, all of those tend to give you a skewed perspective of what the overall situation is with the manufacturing sector or anything like that. So there's so much more that we need to fix along the way. But I think India is in a position to do that without, putting on a party hat or anything like that. We've, since liberalization, we've seen a lot of change. And we need to make sure that change continues to focus on opening up markets, opening up opportunities, getting out of the way of entrepreneurship. If you just think about what's going wrong in recent times, right? Just take 2-3 examples. This Web 3.0, the crypto world. What happened to that industry? Well, it's moved to Dubai or somewhere, right? Or Singapore. Because it's not like it had to be cryptocurrency. There were other possible uses, but we basically decided to go after them with some kinds of taxes and stuff of that sort, and off they went somewhere else. We're about to do the same to the gaming sector. Online gaming's just been given not only has it been given a tax rate equivalent to gambling and betting and all that sort of thing, but there's a retrospective tax that they've just imposed on them, which is probably going to shut down all these guys. Now, if these guys shut down, that is, or move somewhere else, this is cutting-edge technology, which we're going to miss out on. So what is, in this case, the central government thinking when they do something like this? Okay, so these are some of the concerns we have. So why self-goals along the way? Okay, to this grand future that awaits us. That's really the challenge before us.
Got it. So I started trading the market in the late 90s, and I've, every time Infosys results, I've tracked it very closely. And I think one of the things that you followed through your journey was, like this whole underselling, over-delivering, right? And
under-promising.
Yeah, under-promising, sorry. Yeah, under-promising.
Underselling.
Got it. Yeah, sorry. Under-promising, over-delivering. Do you think that has changed in the world today? Because we are constantly seeing people over-promise, under-deliver. As in, what has changed, and what would your advice be to budding entrepreneurs and people who are probably going to go list their companies soon?
Well, I don't blame the young entrepreneurs. They or as I pointed out, they have a grand vision. They want to grow well. They want to reach good valuations. There's nothing wrong with that. However, what has happened, as you know perhaps better than I do, is that in the last 5 to 8 years, there was considerable amount of money, venture capital money, that came to India. Now, as the professor would tell both of us, when the demand increases, that the demand for investment in enterprises increases, and the supply doesn't increase, what does it happen? The price goes up. So therefore, what happened was that the VCs were looking for good ideas. There were very few of them, but there was a lot of money that came to India, and therefore the valuations went up. Second, the entrepreneurs, obviously they're human like you and me, and they're young. They're not 78-year-old like me. They are in their 20s and some maybe in 30s. They obviously want to obtain as much of money from the VCs as possible. However, for some reason, we in India have not developed a very robust model of market estimation. We do not have market research companies that can go deep into the market, go into the trenches, and then give an estimate of the market opportunity with a very high level of confidence. With the result, starting from 1995, we have been overestimating the market. As you know, I don't know, you may know, you may not know, but definitely Raji would know. In 95, a lot of American and European companies came, assuming that there was 200 million urban Indians who had enough disposable income to buy their products. But they were all disappointed because there was really nowhere near 200 million. That tendency to inflate the market has continued because we don't have good quality. For example, we at Infosys used a wonderful market research company, survey company called Feedback, which was founded by Mr. Ravi Chandar, who today runs the Bangalore International Center. Frankly, I haven't come across a better market research person than Ravi. But that kind of quality in market research doesn't exist for whatever reason. And second, because there's so much of money that the venture capitalists have to invest in entrepreneurs, the depth of due diligence has also not been as good as you would want. With the result, lots of money was given to many of these entrepreneurs, and they're youngsters. You can't blame them. They also bought into this whole overestimation. When you think you have to be prepared to handle a huge market, naturally your expenses are also higher, right? So what the result was, we created huge losses in our companies, the startups. The entrepreneurs were disappointed. The venture capitalists were disappointed. And to some extent, even the investors were disappointed because it became to some extent like a Ponzi scheme. Because an investor, a VC who comes in at Series A would want to sell part of his thing at Series B. This rarely happened in the past all over the world. But in the last probably 10, 15 years, this has become the norm. And finally, certain people were left holding the baby. And everybody was disappointed. So therefore, I would say that that model has more or less come to an end. And today, I think the VCs are very careful in investing. Their due diligence is also of a very high quality. And I believe that whatever happened in the last 4 or 5 years has yielded some very important lessons for our entrepreneurs, for our VCs, and for the investor community. You know, my mother used to say, this is about 70 years old saying, she used to tell us children that you must live like a saint. You must think like a scholar, and you must act like a warrior. What does it mean? You know, this is a woman who had studied only up to 8th class. She was not a scholar, nothing. Only 8th class. The only English she could write was she could sign in English. That's it. Beyond that, nothing. But that was a very important lesson that was ingrained into all of us. Now, therefore, if all the entrepreneurs assembled here were to remember that live like a saint, think like a scholar, and act like a warrior, what that means is, when you are building your company, please embrace frugality. Please embrace, austerity. Have a big vision. But big vision should be in targets. Big vision should be in achievement, not in spending. Second, think like a scholar. Think about your idea very deeply, very carefully before you start pitching it. Make sure that your idea has a differentiated business value to the customer or differentiated value to a consumer compared to all other existing ideas. For that, they need to think like scholars. They need to go deep into it. They need to conduct some market research. They need to understand the market well. And finally, as my mother said, act like a warrior. The beauty of a warrior is when you are in the trench out there at the border, you have very little comfort. It is very painful. It is very dangerous. You don't know whether you will exist tomorrow or not. But you have to be daring. You have to think of unusual methods of survival and success. So therefore, my friends, if there is one message that I can give you people is, every entrepreneur must live like a saint, think like a scholar, and act like a warrior. That's what I would say.
Thanks. Yeah, Rajiv.
How do we follow this man? Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So when we started Zerodha back in 2010, we were like the first brokerage firm in Bangalore, and a lot of people asked me, why you start? You should be in Bombay. I mean, even today, a lot of people think we were somehow based out of Bombay, and so Mumbai, and Bengaluru. So my question is, okay, and looking back today, 13 years since we started Zerodha, I don't think the business would have existed if not for Bengaluru. And because, culturally, the way the businesses got built, the people who came together, it all happened thanks to Bengaluru. And it hurts when you see the brand Bengaluru taking a beating. And it's just not, I'm just talking about it not in any party context. It's been taking a beating over the last few years actually. Just the better weather, better people isn't enough, anymore. So what is the government thinking? I mean, now that you're in a place to influence some decisions, how are you thinking about it? What can be done? Is there something you need from, folks like us? And like, how are you thinking about this?
Okay. So, I grew up here. I'm a Mandina Maga, as they say, son of the soil, and spent about 17 years in the US and came back. I was a professor there, and then I came back to India in 2000. And the Bengaluru I came back to was a very different city, right? It was a city brimming with entrepreneurship, Mr. Murthy and his company leading the way. And these are people who were not born to billions, but basically who created that value along the way, right? So that was very inspiring. But there was also a spirit of social entrepreneurship, of giving back, just like you guys with your Rain Matter Foundation are giving back to society, right? So all of this was there, and that buzz of giving back to society, whether it was the Bangalore Agenda Task Force with Nandan and others who were leading, things like that. It was a very, very wonderful time to be back here. And that same spirit and energy has continued. It's emerged with newer forms of entrepreneurs and startups and things like that, attracting a lot of wonderful talent. But somehow the government and the city have not kept pace, right? So we're not able to walk a certain distance without getting onto the street because the sidewalks are all messed up, the footpaths, that sort of thing. But more than that, the volume of traffic is creating a situation where we're not able to be as productive, and we are actually quite stressed, and it takes us hours to get from place to place, etc. So how are we going to fix that? That's really one of the central issues, right? Now, happily, in the next few days, that Purple Line Metro will be connected between Bayapanalli and KR-Pura. The moment that happens, you will see people anywhere who can access the metro right now will be able to get all the way to Whitefield taking public transport. But I haven't stopped there. And our government, our dynamic Deputy Chief Minister, Shiv Kumar, he told me just go ahead and see what else we can do. So I've been coordinating with a number of agencies and saying that's part of the challenge with government, getting people to come together and saying, okay, now that this is happening, can we create last mile connectivity? So the BMTC is going to launch feeder buses from KR-Pura to the outer ring road, which is not going to get a metro for quite a while. So from KR-Pura to Silk Board, you're going to see every 5 minutes, you're going to see buses running, etc. So if we can, and there's a civil society campaign called Private to Public, right? And we're literally going to get people to say, look, I'm going to switch a couple of days a week to taking public transport. So if this works, suddenly the load on the streets will come down. But it's not going to stop there. We need more infra like this. There are different dimensions of that we're talking about. And if we can make the city commute come down dramatically, it would make a huge difference. I've been campaigning for something called suburban rail for 15 years. And it's still, it's like a mirage. It's still not happened. It's a very simple concept. There are existing railway lines in 8 directions in Bengaluru city, Indian Railways. Just use those so that you can get from Yeshwantpur to Whitefield in 20 minutes instead of having to go through everything else, right? See, I lived in New York City. You have metros, or in Philadelphia. When I got my PhD at Wharton, there would be trams on the street, there were buses, there were underground metros, and there was suburban rail. Right? All of these were, they were all part of the mix. And that's what we need to institutionalize here. It's been a challenge for example, getting Indian Railways to cooperate because they see it as a loss-making venture. And I keep telling them, sorry, boss, we'll get enough companies to sponsor and make sure you at least break even, right? And there are all sorts of possibilities. And the nice thing is, when you think about buses in this city, we don't just have your regular buses, you also have your what we call Volvo buses, which I sometimes take to the airport, which are air-conditioned, and so it allows people who demand different levels of service to also partake of public transport. So that's the way we need to think. And if we can start bringing in these infrastructural changes, that's one huge dimension. But I'm still holding on to the mic. So let me point out the other thing that I just mentioned, your Rain Matter Foundation, etc. Right? See, we've, over the decades, messed with our lake ecosystem. We've seen crazy things like floods in the city. I mean, we're perched 3,000 feet above sea level. We've got 4 major valleys draining us. Instead, what are the stories we hear? Floods, Bellandur Lake catching fire. So what's gone wrong? So what we need to do with the talent that's in government, with the passion that civil society has, we need to come together. And we need to fix many of those things in such a way that it's not just the weather, it's everything else around Bengaluru that comes alive. And there are others. For example, Prashant Prakash is talking about reinstituting a festival of Bengaluru once a year in December, which makes this a tourist destination from around the world. Lots of other things can piggyback around this. And suddenly, in the process, we identify a lot of other things that are hidden and make them accessible to the public. There's just so much we can do. This is, I should just stop here for now, though.
Got it. And you were saying this whole carpooling was just a misunderstanding in the press is...
So that, it's amazing how the media, since this is sponsored by the media, I should be kinder. But the basic point is, suddenly when a headline comes, carpooling is banned. And some of our leading citizens like Kiran Mazumdar tweet and say, this is madness. Well, of course it's madness to ban carpooling. What is banned is commercial use of private vehicles. And that stands to reason, right? There's a regulation because if you're going to use your private vehicle commercially, then there are other things like insurance in the case of an accident, various other things we need to think about as a government. So basically, we don't allow private vehicles, what we call whiteboard vehicles, to do the work of taxis. Now, nothing is coming in the way of carpooling. There needs to be a regulatory intervention. Right? So basically, that's what, I mean, when the carpooling entrepreneurs came by, I took them to the transport minister. And I said, look, let's sit down and think about how do we facilitate this. If the current rules don't allow it, doesn't mean we have to live with them. Let's change the rules, right? And so that's where we're moving. And so there's a little misunderstanding on what is that carpooling app doing. Is it making money off of carpooling? Or is it sort of solving the information and coordination problem that exists when people want to carpool, right? I may be wanting to go to Electronic City. I don't know who else in my neighborhood or in the apartment next door, not in the building, but the next building, also wants to go in the same direction, right? So somewhere you need some intervention that breaks that information, the lack of information. And that's what these entities are doing. So maybe there's a platform fee. That's not a commercial use of a private vehicle. And then you can restrict it to one trip in the morning and one trip in, 2 trips back in one, there are various ways of facilitating it. But that's the mindset that we're trying to bring to government here, which is how do we make these things work rather than what the headline suggested that we're saying, no, we're going to come in the way of what seems like the most sensible thing to do. Let's move people, not vehicles. Yeah.
Thanks. Nice to hear. I think we'll do some audience questions. Yeah. Okay.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to open the floor for questions, specifically for the 40 under 40 achievers. I think this will be an opportune time for you to learn, so I'm going to request you to raise your hand really quick. We'll quickly pass the mic. Yes, sir. Can you keep your hands raised a little higher? We'll spot you. We'll get the mic for you. I believe we've got two gentlemen here. We'll
Right.
come to you, sir, first, and we'll come to you next.
Can I?
Yes, sir, we'll start with you.
A very good evening to you. Dear sir, Mr. Murthy, this question is for you. What advice would you give the young entrepreneurs? Let's say if you had to start all over again, let's say you're 25 today, and you're starting Infosys all over again. You spoke about frugality. I mean, that's absolutely admirable. And I also wanted to know, is it true that you once fell off your scooter when you were with Mr. Nandan or someone, one of your colleagues, long back, during the 80s or something?
Somehow I find in India we increase the bass.
Put the volume up. We'll just increase the volume, please.
Also reduce the bass.
Reduce the bass, increase the treble, and
Reduce the bass, the bass. Yeah. What was the question that you were asking?
Yes, my question to you is, how would you start Infosys if you had to start all over again? Let's say you're 25 today. What would you do that you did not do, those days? At least 3 things that you would do and 3 things you would avoid. This is my primary question. And another question, is that true that you fell off a scooter?
We'll just take one question. We have many questions. We'll take one, sir.
Okay, yeah, sure. What are the 3 things you would do and what are the 3 things that you would not do? Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for that question. Congratulations on you being one of the 40 under 40. Rajiv spoke about a very important issue in the economic and social progress of a country, and that is mindset. If India has not achieved what it aspired to, it is purely because of our mindset. So I am a person of the 60s and 70s mindset. So I have to now imagine what it is to be like you. Let me try. But because there are some time invariant and context invariant attributes that all of us, whether it's you or me or anybody else, has to follow. And the first one is, once again, I come back to what my grandmother used to say. And she would say, look, worship Saraswati, Lakshmi will automatically come. Therefore, what I would do today is, I would first spend a little bit of time on how good my idea is, whether it provides differentiated value to the customers or consumers compared to all other existing ideas, or whether it is creating any discontinuity in the marketplace. That is, nobody else had thought of such an idea. Second, I would conduct a very simple, inexpensive market research among my friends and relatives and whatever it is, without telling them that this is my idea, I want to become an entrepreneur with this. Because I want to hear their honest feedback. And I would use that honest feedback to look at that idea even more deeply and then modify it if necessary or improve it if necessary. Next, I would try to express the power of my idea in a simple sentence, not a complex sentence, not a compound sentence. Why do I say this? It is because a simple sentence is easier to understand by customers, by venture capitalists, and by even key employees. If you're trying to attract key employees for your idea, then a simple sentence is the best way to express the power of your idea. If you're going to a prospect, he or she doesn't have time to listen to long presentations by you. Therefore, you must learn to express the power of your idea as a simple sentence. And VCs, they receive hundreds of applications, and they have to sort out the good ones from the not so good ones. Probably 99% are not really great ideas. So in order for your idea to stand out as a gem of an idea, you have to use a simple sentence and communicate the power of the stunning value that you're going to provide. Then, I would bring together a team of people who have mutually exclusive but collectively exhaustive set of skills, expertise, and experience. I'm a great believer that the success of a startup depends on the power of sales, and finance. Then, of course, your technology idea, they're all needed. But you may have the best technology idea, but you don't have the ability to sell. If you don't have the ability to use finance very carefully, control costs, and leverage your money to get the best result, then it's not likely to take off as well as you want. So you need people who are experts in sales, you need people who are experts in finance, you need people who can spot talent and make great simple presentations to them and attract them, etc., etc. So you need mutually exclusive but collectively exhaustive set of skills, expertise, and experience. Fourth, when you select this team, you must make sure that all these people have an enduring common value system. Because entrepreneurship is all about making sacrifices. It's a very hard journey. It's being away from family. It's making huge sacrifices in comfort. Therefore, you must be 100% sure that when you are sleeping, nobody else will put his or her hand in the till and take it away. So therefore, you need 100% implicit trust in every one of the key members of the team. For that, all of you must have an enduring common value system. I think if you can focus on this, and finally, as I told you, all these people must ingest the idea that I said, what my mother used to say, that is, live like a saint, think like a scholar, and act like a warrior, because speed, agility, nimbleness, Spartan ability to achieve extraordinary results, these are the attributes of a warrior. So therefore, I would say that the entire team that comes together with you has these three attributes, then you were likely to escape. But there's a very important last point, and that is, there is no other important attribute for a leader of a startup than leadership by example. I took 1/10 the salary I was getting, but I gave all this, Nandan, Chris, everybody 20% higher salary. Then they realized that this man is not out to exploit us. So therefore, in fact, until I retired, I used to take the same salary as all my younger colleagues, even though I used to get probably 20 times their salary before I founded Infosys. Now, similarly, we travel economy until we reached a revenue of $1 billion and a net income or a net profit of $280 million. That is 28% after tax. Now, why did I do all of that? Because there is nothing as powerful as leadership that walks the talk. No amount of lecture that you can give will ever impress people if you are putting your hand in the till and then giving lecture to others. Therefore, you have to, like Mahatma Gandhi used to say, you have to lead by example. I don't know if you people know, Mahatma lived a very simple life, and he used to wear loincloth, and he used to eat very simple food, and he used to travel by third class. So there would be thousands of people at every railway station wanting to meet him. So his compatriots realized, man, who knows, there may be somebody who doesn't like this man, and they may try to bump him off. So there used to be several white clothes or several non-uniform based people who are trying to protect him. For example, somebody would taste the food that would be given to him before he ate, because somebody may try to bump him off. Sarojini Naidu once said, of course she had that flexibility with Mahatma. She said, it takes a fortune to keep this man in poverty. And that was worth it, because that man was a unique leader produced by the world, not just India, right? So therefore, I would say that if you as the leader were to lead by example in your action, not just words, and action speaks louder than words. Let me stop here.
One last? Okay.
No, there's so many outstanding women here. Let's have a question from one of them. We are in a manel. We need some gender balance here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
One last question from, the lady there in the back.
We'll quickly pass the mic to the lady right behind. And so you've rightly said, because a woman on a mission needs no permission. So let's take it from the ladies as well. Ma'am, over to you.
Hi, I'm Sanya. I've founded my startup here in Bangalore around 5 years back. And I think all of us are speaking about how the VC culture, can you hear me?
I'm just going to request you to repeat that again, slightly louder. Yes.
Hi, I'm Sanya. I started my startup here in Bangalore 5 years back. I'm 27 now, and back then there was not a lot of information for us of how to raise, or my family hasn't done businesses before, so the whole VC game was not very clear enough for me and my co-founder. But now, like how we were all speaking about how VCs are upset and startups have been upset, and there's a huge speculation of which startup to be invested on. I just want to understand from you guys' end, is it okay to have a gap for a startup to raise? Because I think my startup wasn't ready for the last 4 years to be put money on. But that we have made our own revenue, paid our employees, had a lean team, we are ready now. And so I just want to understand from you guys, is it okay to have a gap?
Thanks, Sanya. So first advice, like sir was saying, selling skills is very important. When you have an opportunity to sell, you need to tell your name of your startup. And you don't want to miss out. With so many people in the audience, and what is your startup or what do you do? I mean, that should be your first line, you know, so. That's okay. Yeah.
It's called Aflog. We're building a visual content marketplace.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, so I'll just, I don't think, you know, this is not like a resume that if you have a stopgap somehow, you know, the next VC won't come and invest. Like Sir was saying, I think it eventually comes down to the product and the team. So if you're building a good product and you have a right bunch of people around building it, a VC will always come and invest. I mean, so I don't think you should really care. I mean, it's okay to spend 3-4 years figuring out the industry. You're building your core competence. And as an investor, you know, we invest through Rainmatter. We have 100+ investments. I think you know, if I were to prioritize in terms of what is the weightage to what, right at the top is, you know, is the product. Then core competency. You know, does a person who's building the business really understand what the business is? And if you spend 4 years, you actually probably have, you know, notched a few points there. So yeah, don't worry about the gap is what I'd say. I don't know, sir, if you want to add something to this?
No, I think what is important is the quality of your idea, not your age. What is important is how many gap years you have had, but how well you use those gap years. So therefore, there are so many cases. I mean, in my own case, when I returned from France, I started Softronics, and that failed because there was really no domestic market. I had committed a huge mistake without, as I said, without trying to understand the market opportunity in the domestic market. That was in 1976. Then what I did was, I learned this lesson, I kept that in my mind, and I said, look, the best way to succeed today is to look at the export market. And for me to look at the export market, I must be in a position where I'm the leader of a software group that allows me to travel a lot outside India, understand the market. So in other words, I learned a few lessons from my failure, and then I founded Infosys. God was kind, and it well. So please don't worry. It is not what age you start. It is not how you spend, how many gap years you have had. What is important is, if from the failure that one has had, whether there are any indelible lessons that one has learned. And if there are indelible lessons one has learned, and if you created a mindset that constantly tries to improve, and that will overcome the various lacuna that existed in the first attempt, I think you will be a very, very successful entrepreneur. I would not at all be bothered. I don't think any venture capitalist would be bothered about what happened in your first attempt. What they would all be bothered about would be how good your current idea. That's all.
Wonderful, wonderful. On that note, I've been told that we have a hard stop over here. So I'm very sorry, sir, we won't be able to take your question. But ladies and gentlemen, can we have a huge round of applause to thank our leaders for joining us, for sharing their valuable insights. If I could please invite Mr. Rajiv Dubey to please come on stage, sir, to present a token of gratitude to our leaders for their valuable presence and their valuable insights, the much needed insights. And we managed to gather not just business lessons, but also life lessons. We have with us Mr. Rajiv Dubey, Editor-in-Chief, Fortune India, to present a token of gratitude to our icons, to our legends, to our leaders. Okay, I'll do.
always thought of you as part of Fortune India. That's the problem I have.
Rajiv, if I could also request you to please join our leaders for a group photograph. Let's have you all come together. And on that note, I'd like to request Sri Rajiv Gowda to please join our members of the audience as we get started with the proceedings of the felicitations. While I request Mr. Naran Murthy to please remain on stage, I'd like to request Mr. Rajiv Dubey as well to please remain on stage. And if I could also please request Mr. Nitin Kamath to please remain on stage. Now, let me tell you all, before we begin with the formal awards ceremony, in the interest of Nitin's time, I've been told you have a flight to catch ASAP. This is where as we are announcing the felicitations for the 40 under 40, we'd like to actually present the first award to Nikhil Kamath of Zerodha. And I'm going to be requesting Nitin to please receive the honor on behalf of Nikhil Kamath. Can we have a huge, huge round of applause? Thank you very much, Nitin, for joining us here. And while the felicitations continue, I'm just going to quickly check. Shall we clear the stage or are we good to go ahead? Rajiv, what would you suggest? We're good to go ahead, right? All right, let's not delay. Let's actually continue as we honor and felicitate our Fortune India 40 under 40. With that, let's actually move ahead and invite the next recipient. Ladies and gentlemen, the next award actually goes to Aditi Bhosle Valunj and Chetan Valunj, who redefined the concept of bulk fuel retailing with Repose Energy. So let me please invite on stage our next recipients of the Fortune India 40 under 40, Aditi and Chetan. Let the felicitations continue. And next is someone who's making a name for India in the so far unexplored drone industry. Ladies and gentlemen, Agnishwar Jayaprakash of Garuda Aerospace. Let me remind you, in fact, Agnishwar had a question earlier, so I'm sure he's taking the time to ask it. There, that's right, absolutely, sir. Not in India, all right. Congratulations indeed. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's move ahead because it's now time to invite our next recipients. Now, they managed to marry geolocation and artificial intelligence to bring savings to companies. Let me please invite Ajay Bulusu and Gaurav Bubna, co-founders of NextBillion.ai. Congratulations. Now the next next winner is someone who's changing the way we communicate with high-speed data connectivity. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the next recipient is Akash Ambani, Chairman, Reliance Jio Network. We have with us Jimmy Amrolia from Reliance Industries to receive the honor on behalf of Akash Ambani. Let's have a huge round of applause, everyone. Note, it's time to invite our next recipient, the one who has pioneered the lists that portray India's rising economic power, be it the richest Indians or the Future Unicorn Index. Let's hear it for Anas Rahman Junaid, founder and chief researcher, Hurun, India. Set of recipients have made life easier for students who are looking to study abroad by helping them with finance. Let's welcome the co-founder of Leap Finance, Arnav Kumar and Vaibhav Singh. Recipients are Ashka Guradia, Ashutosh Valani, and Priyank Shah of Rennie Cosmetics. We have with us Parun Shah, the head of investments and finance, Rennie Cosmetics, here to receive the honor on their behalf. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a beautiful round of applause as Ashka, Ashutosh, and Priyank are making this world absolutely beautiful with their work as well. As the felicitations continue, our next set of recipients have gamified the learning experience, making learning enjoyable. Let's welcome Mayank Jain and Joydeep Nath from Splash Learn. Arkat Jain, Umang Jain, Joydeep Nath and Mayank Jain. Wow, we have all of them over here. Can we also splash this hall with a round of applause, everyone? Let's bring the energy back in the air, everyone. On that inspiring note, as we move ahead, I think one thing we all can agree is that if there is one thing that every Indian looks forward to, it's a good cup of piping hot tea. That's what our next winner does. He spreads the aroma of India's finest teas across the world. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have an aromatic round of applause. Let's hear it for Bala Sharda, founder of Vadam, India. Well, now soon after the morning tea, most men, what they get to do is shaving. That's where the products made by Deepak Gupta, the co-founder, Bombay Shaving Company, come into play. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Deepak Gupta. The felicitations are going back to back. With that, it's time to announce the next recipient, none other than the co-founder of the EdTech unicorn, Byju's. Ladies and gentlemen, Divya Gokulnath. We have with us Sunita Krishnan to receive the honor on behalf of Divya Gokulnath. Can we all have a huge round of applause? of recipients are the ones who started off by creating non-toxic products for children and have over time created an FMCG behemoth that is taking on bigger players. Ladies and gentlemen, Ghazal Alag and Varun Alag, co-founders of Mama Earth. We have with us Ankur Chaudhary to receive the honor on their behalf. Next recipient. That's right. We are in a mood to celebrate already, but why not? That's what this evening is about. With that, let me also announce the next recipient of the Fortune India 40 Under 40. Now, she is someone who's in the process of redefining retail as we know it. Ladies and gentlemen, Isha Ambani, Director, Reliance Industries. Once again, I'd like to request Jimmy Amrolia to please come on stage to receive the honor. Can we please have a huge round of applause as we also celebrate Isha Ambani, Director, Reliance Industries. And now, from retail, let's head to pure infrastructure. And that's what Karan Adani, CEO, Adani Ports and SEC is doing. Ladies and gentlemen, let's celebrate Karan Adani with a huge round of applause. And may I please invite G.J. Rao, CEO, Krishnapatnam Port, to please come on stage to receive the honor. One thing that we all understand is that as our electronic goods demand rises by the day, so does the number of devices that we throw out for being obsolete. And that's where our next set of recipients, Mandeep Manocha and Nakul Kumar, co-founders at Cashify, a re-commerce platform for electronic devices, come in. We have with us Anupam Kumar to receive the honor on their behalf. I'm sure all of you will agree that pollution is something that people in India face every day at all levels. It is to find the solutions to mitigate widespread pollution that our next set of recipients are actually working towards. Ladies and gentlemen, Manish Dabkara, Chairman and Managing Director and CEO, EKI Energy Services. Can we please have a huge, huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Manish Dabkara, next recipient. Next recipient is someone who has made Indian fashion absolutely global, none other than Masaba Gupta, founder, House of Masaba. Now we all know that Masaba is leading her company's meet in Goa, so we have Sagar Chabra to receive the honor on her behalf. So if I could please invite Sagar to please come on stage. Well, I must admit, I love to travel, and I know you all love to travel, and making travel easier is Ease My Trip. None other than Mr. Nishant Pitti, CEO, Ease My Trip, as our next recipient. We have his brother, Prashant Pitti, to please collect the honor. So if I could please invite Prashant to quickly travel to the stage to receive the honor. If I could please invite Prashant Pitti. Right, so I believe Prashant isn't here. Must be busy on another round of a wanderlust outside the hall. Not a problem, but congratulations. And with that, let's move on to our next set of recipients who are working to ensure that you get a good night's sleep on your customized mattress. Let's hear it for Priyanka Salot and Harshil Salot, co-founders, The Sleep Company. know, thanks to the sleep company, we're all able to wake up fresh. Can we also have a nice fresh round of applause, everyone? Bring the energy back in the air. That's what we're talking about. Congratulations. Now, as India and the world is gradually moving to an electric vehicle future, the key element is to have batteries. We have with us as the recipients Pulkit Khurana and Siddharth Sikka, co-founders Battery Smart, that provides a battery swapping network for electric vehicles. Let's hear it for them as I invite Tarun Gaur to receive the honor on their behalf. All said and done, the biggest thing that a child needs is good education. And that's where our next recipient comes. In the midst of the EdTech boom, he has kept the flag flying high for the brick and mortar educational institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, Puneet Kotapa, President, Narayan Educational Institutions. Celebrate the inspiring work, let me also inform you that when we talk about logistics, keeping logistics costs under control is critical to the economy. And that's what our next set of recipients are actually doing with the truck operators. We'd like to please invite our next recipients, Rajesh, Yabaji, and Chanakya Hridaya of Black Buck. Let's have a huge round of applause. Our amazing recipients right here at Fortune India 40 Under 40. While we're talking about business, there will always be disputes over many things. And to sort out the issues that relate to legal issues, that's where it's time to invite our next recipient, Rishabh Shroff, partner Cyril Amachand Mangaldas. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please have a super duper round of applause, Rishabh Shroff. Time to also introduce and invite our next recipient who's making teams in enterprises function more cohesively. We're talking about our next recipient, Rohan Murthy, founder and CTO, Soroko. So if I could please request Sri Rajiv Gowda to please come on stage, sir, to please present this award to Sri Narayan Murthy ji.
Rohan asked me to communicate this to Rajiv and others, of course. He probably has already told Rajiv. My son is the best man at a wedding of his close friends during his PhD days at Harvard. So he is, unfortunately, in Boston today. Therefore, he couldn't come. So I am receiving it on his behalf. Thank you.
Now that's an absolutely endearing moment there indeed. So congratulations to Rohan. I'll take that. And on that note, let's also move ahead and invite our next set of recipients. Now they're the ones who are running a storytelling platform across genres in 8 languages, Pocket FM. Now, I must tell you, since the co-founders Rohan Nayak, Nishant S. and Prateek Dikshit are not here with us in this evening, we have Rahul Nag to receive the honor. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about a storytelling platform. We're all storytellers. We believe in storytelling. Can we have a huge round of applause as we celebrate our recipients? And if I could please invite Rahul Nag to please receive the honor on behalf of Rohan Nayak, Nishant S. and Prateek Dikshit. On that note, time to invite our next set of recipients, and this time it's time actually to invite the tech trio of Bizongo. We have Sachin Agrawal, Aniket Deb, and Ankit Tomar. So let's hear it for the tech trio of Bizongo. Right, I believe you're not here. All right. They're busy with their best friend, the technology itself. All right, not a problem. We're going to pass the honor to them. With that, let's invite our next set of recipients. Ladies and gentlemen, none other than our next recipient, in fact, is Selvam VMS, the founder and CEO of Velocity, that is into supplying fresh fruits and vegetables. Now, I've also been informed that Selvam had to deal with an emergency at home, but we have Velocity's Aditya to please come on stage and receive the honor. Can we please have a fresh round of applause? This is some amazing work that the team of Velocity is doing, supplying fresh fruits and vegetables. So let's also celebrate Selvam. Let's celebrate the team. Our next recipient is somebody who is transforming 163-year-old retail giant Spencer's into a nimble-footed firm with a keen eye on profitability. We're talking about Shashwat Goenka, Sector Head Retail and FMCG at RP Sanjeev Goenka Group. I'm going to be requesting Mr. Rajiv Dubey to please receive the honor on his behalf. Well, on that note, that also brings me to the next topic that we're talking about, the fact that I'm sure so many of us love a good cup of strong coffee. Well, if you also enjoy it, then let me tell you our next recipient, in fact, is the go-to person for that. We're talking about Shivam Shahi, co-founder and COO Blue Tokai Coffee, who introduced single origin coffee to the masses. We have Chatur Vedi K, General Manager, Cafe Operations West and South, to receive the honor on his behalf. Coffee ki baat ho rahi hai. I'm sure we have kicked in an adrenaline rush. Can we have a nice round of applause as well? Like a nice cup of coffee? Because it's now time to invite our next recipient, someone who's the face of sustainable luxury hospitality. Ladies and gentlemen, none other than Shruti Shibulal, CEO and Director, Tamara Leisure. Ladies and gentlemen, Shruti in fact has introduced the concept of responsible hospitality that includes a range of sustainable practices. Mighty, mighty congratulations. Now the next set of recipients are simplifying manufacturing. Ladies and gentlemen, Srinath Ramkrishnan and Vishal Chaudhary, co-founders of Zet Work. We have Amrit Raj, Director Zet Work, to receive the honor on their behalf. Our next recipient of the Fortune India 40 Under 40 is someone who builds satellites. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Suyash Singh, co-founder and CEO, Galaxy. Let's announce our next recipient. Now, somebody who's actually making the users interested in gaming. Let's hear it for Yashash Agarwal and Gaurav Agarwal, co-founder GameZop. have to remind our members of the audience that there is no tax when you have a round of applause. No tax whatsoever. But that being said, our next recipient, in fact, is none other than the co-founders of Clear Tax. So let's welcome on stage Ankit Solanki, Archit Gupta, and Srivatsan Chari, the co-founders of Clear Tax. All right, so I've been told that you're not here. All right, so we'll hand it over to them. Well, then let's move ahead because it's time to announce our final recipients of the Fortune India's 40 Under 40. Ladies and gentlemen, our final recipients, can we please have a thunderous round of applause as we hear it for the founder and CEO, Pixel, Awais Ahmed. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, while we come to the end of the proceedings with regard to the felicitations, I'd like to humbly request Sri Narayan Murthy ji to please remain on the stage, sir, because this is where I'm going to request you to also please do a quick lucky draw for us. This is where we'll be picking 2 lucky names. And let me inform you all that it's time to actually move ahead and celebrate our time partner, Frederick Constant. And this is where we're going to do a lucky draw. We're going to pick 2 lucky winners, 1 male, 1 female. So we're going to have the goblets on stage, please. We have it right here on the first table. Can we have those 2 goblets on the stage, please? So what we've done is we've put the cards in 2 different goblets. So I'm going to request Mr. Murthy to please pick our winners. The winners will be receiving the High Life Collection as the award. So let's quickly do that.
This is Manish Dapkara.
Manish Dapkar ji, आपका टाइम आ गया.
This is Shriti Shibulal.
Wow. Shriti, we can't have enough of you. We want you back on stage every time. Congratulations. Stunning watches from the High Life Collection by Frederick Constant. Huge congratulations. Now that we spoke about time, let me tell you, it is also the right time for us to unveil the latest issue of Fortune India. So let's please have it on the stage. I'm going to request Mr. Rajiv Dubey and Mr. Narayan Murthy to please unveil the latest issue of Fortune India. I'd now like to also please request Mr. Rajiv Dubey to please felicitate Mr. Narayan Murthy for his valuable presence here, and we'd like to offer our mark of respect by presenting the shawl. Mr. Dubey, let me please request you to do the honors. This is where I'd like to please request our winners, our recipients, to please come on stage with their trophies. May I also please invite Mr. Arun Singh, Business Head, Fortune India, to please join Mr. Narayan Murthy, Mr. Rajiv Dubey, and the winners on stage. Well, let me tell you, it's not over until it's over. I'm going to request everyone else to please be seated. I'd like to please request the recipients, the winners, to please come on stage for a group photograph. Let's capture this iconic moment. And let's do that with all your smiles and, of course, with those trophies. While I request Mr. Arun Singh to please join, may I also please humbly request Sri Rajiv Gowda to please come on stage, sir, to please also join our winners. I'm just going to request our winners to make it a little compact so that everyone is captured. Let's see how we do that. Ladies and gentlemen, the recipients of the Fortune India 40 Under 40, can we have a huge round of applause one more time as we celebrate ideas, as we celebrate leaders, as we celebrate entrepreneurship, as we celebrate the future of India. While I request our winners to please take your seats, I also request Mr. Narayan Murthy ji, Mr. Rajiv Dubey to please take your seats. I'd like to request Mr. Arun Singh, Business Head, Fortune India, to please propose a vote of thanks for this phenomenal evening.
Thanks, Kavya. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As we come to the end of today's program, on behalf of Team Fortune India, I'd like to thank all our 40 Under 40 stars of 2023, esteemed speakers, partners, and guests. I know many of you have specially traveled from far off to be with us today and celebrate this evening. We really appreciate your gesture. This program would not have been possible without the support of our partners, who not only believe in our vision to create and build on a property like Fortune India 40 Under 40, but also supported thoroughly. Each of our partner is a leader in its category and an achiever in its own right. I'd like to thank our chief guest for the evening, Sri N.R. Narayan Murthy ji, for taking out time and sharing his deeply inspiring words with all of us. I thank all our speakers for participating in a really interesting and engaging debate that saw diverse views and thoughts. This evening would not have been a success had it not seen the encouragement and sportsmanship that you all have shown. I'd like to thank our mobility partner, Fisker, state partner, Karnataka, time partner, Frederick Constant, airline partner, Air India, technology partner, Acer, celebrations partner, Sula Vineyards, gifting partner, ITC Febble, pouring partner, Paul John Center, marketing partner Creatiges, hospitality partner Four Seasons, and telecast partner ET Now. Thank you everyone for being with us today, and I hope to see you all next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a wonderful evening right here, seeing how many amazing leaders are changing the face of India for good. So on that note, it's time to carry forward the celebrations and the conversations. We cordially invite you to please join us for drinks and dinner in the pre-function area. And that being said, I'm going to request the team of Fortune India to please come on stage for a beautiful photograph with Mr. Narayan Murthy and Mr. Rajiv Gowda. On that note, it's time for me to sign off. Dhanyavad and Jai Hind. Let me please request the entire Fortune India business team, the editor team, everybody, the entire Fortune India team. Come on, let's have you on stage. Let's capture this moment with a beautiful photograph as well. And ladies and gentlemen, let's have you all join in for drinks and dinner. Let's take the conversations and the celebrations forward.